The July meeting for the Farmville Board of Commissioners, and a little reminder that next Thursday, we'll have the 3rd of July celebration, something that has been real successful for Farmville by having it on the 3rd, so that the folks that are off on the 4th will be can come and enjoy themselves, and so many people come from out of town. There'll be more information on that. Now, I will ask you, if you've got a cell phone, turn it off. Okay, who's ringing over there? Was it you, Richard? Okay, you're gonna have to go first tonight. Okay, is that fair? That's a good deal. Thank y'all for being here. Those having business with the town of Farmville will be heard on 2 occasions, one at the beginning where we have citizen presentation, and then at the end. But I'll remind you that any questions at the end will be pertaining particularly and specifically to anything you hear and that of the business that has been conducted tonight. We have a very lengthy agenda. I thank you for being here. With that being said, I'm going to ask you to stand if you wish. I'll ask Wes to lead us in invocation. After that, Commissioner Smith will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Turn that phone off.
Let us pray. Father God, we start with gratitude and say thank you for all our many blessings. Yes. Thank you for being merciful and patient, loving, kind, and filled with grace. Yes. Lord, we ask tonight for your guidance and direction for this elected board. We ask for wisdom and discernment needed to carry out the business of this town. And Father, we hope after all is said and done here tonight that you would receive all the honor and glory you so deserve. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, thank you for being here. It's time now for the town manager's comment. Mr. Oates.
Were these citizens' presentations?
Sir?
I believe we had skipped over the citizens' presentations.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss that? Let me tell y'all something real quick. I got these glasses, and they are more trouble than they are worth. Okay, I asked Commissioner Evans to keep me on task, and he's already failed. And, so if something gets sideways, please just bear with me, and thank you for that. Citizen presentation. Stephen, you're up, sir. Oh, I got you. No, you get a number.
Good evening. I'd like to begin with something positive. I'd like to thank Wes Thomas and his Public Works Department for installing 3 curb ramps that the Public Works were able to install just last week. He was able to use some remaining funding, as I understand, in the last week of the fiscal year to install that. I really appreciate the correction of those mistakes and negligent things that were there before, so I really appreciate that, Wes. And now for my ongoing concerns. I'm sure you guys are tired of me. I'm tired. Marriage with Disabilities Act, passed in 1990 based on the 504 section of the 1973 law. You've heard me for years talking about this, bringing up this issue. I've been told directly by your attorney, Mr. Edwards, that he's told you all that regarding the town's need to become compliant with the mandates from 1990. At this year's retreat, while the timing was rescheduled, as I was told, I heard something similar from your Director of Public Works. After months and months of requesting the board to take up the topic, I even got assigned to do the presentation myself. So I tried to stress the aspects of the town, of the law that we haven't followed yet. By July 1992, we were supposed to do an inventory and transition plan to find out what our problems are and how to make a plan to address them. The town hasn't yet, and it's disappointing. Last meeting, you unanimously voted on and approved of 504 policies and procedures. I heard in the meeting that you do this every year. You all signed it. In that policy and procedure, it says 15 working days from filing a complaint, you will hear back. 5 o'clock today was the end of the 15 days when I filed a complaint. I haven't heard back yet. It's disappointing when I can show you the federal law, your attorney shows you the federal laws, your public works director tells you the law, and nothing. Thank you.
Is anyone else that got here late that may need to sign up? Okay. Now is time for the town manager's comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. As the mayor mentioned, just a reminder, our town's July 4th celebration will be next week, July the 3rd on the Common. Just wanted to make mention that Parks and Recreation held their final public input session on June the 18th at the library to receive input and comment on the Recreation Master Plan that was presented to you all at your last board meeting. The plan was positively received from those in attendance with a lot of good feedback, and people were excited about what's being proposed. And then just finally, one additional thing, Mayor, there was one item when we get to the changes, additions, deletions to the agenda. There was one additional item that will need to be added to the agenda. It's at your desktop now. It is a adoption of a ordinance amending the budget for the library.
Okay, we'll get to that. Any questions or concerns with the town manager? Seeing none, we'll go to the financial report. Board, you have that in your booklet. Are there any questions? Any questions of Amy on the financial report? Seeing none, brings us down to changes, deletions to the agenda. The town manager has asked, and I'll ask for a motion on this to be added to the items for consent, the budget amendment for the Davis-Scotty Trust account and to the library, adult and child supplies and material budget to cover accounts over expenditures. Pre-request to the library director, Miss Angie, and approved by the library board of trustees. You have that in front of you. I need a motion to add that to the items of consent, and I will add that as item number 17 if that's the wishes of the board.
Yes, I want to make a motion to add that to the item. The adoption of the ordinance amending the fiscal 2024-25 budget.
Board, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. That will be item number 17 for the items of consent. That brings me down to something that I'm excited about. Can I get Divine Sisters to come on down? I hope these glasses will work during this. Proclamation honoring Divine Sisters on their selection as recipients of the 2025 North Carolina Heritage Award. Whereas Divine Sisters is a family of gospel group from Farmville, North Carolina that has performed nationally and internationally. And whereas Divine Sisters Dorothy, Alice, May, Audrey, and one of North Carolina's longest established quartet-style gospel groups, having spent more than 60 years as a professional touring and recording artist. And whereas the sisters began singing in their church choir in the local church of Union Grove Baptist Church near Farmville, and whereas the group has performed throughout the South, even traveled to Switzerland in 2017, and the Music Makers Relief Foundation to perform and spread the gospel. And whereas the governor of the state of North Carolina, the Honorable Josh Stein, announced on February of 2025 that this group was one of the 6 recipients of the 2025 North Carolina Heritage Award. And whereas the North Carolina Heritage Award since 1989 has recognized North Carolinians who have been significantly influenced in the culture in their communities, such as teaching or training local artists, making recordings or objects, being recognized as the sole or one of few practitioners continuing a tradition or continuing an art form or style that can be traced back the long lineage of artists and generations. And whereas Divine Sisters were honored by the 2025 North Carolina Heritage Award ceremony on June the 7th at the A.J. Fletcher Opera Theater in Raleigh. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the board of commissioners of the town of Farmville, North Carolina, do hereby honor and extend sincere congratulations to Divine Sisters on being recipients of the 2025 North Carolina Heritage Award for their lifetime contribution to the North Carolina state culture. This day, 23rd day of June 2025. That's where we live.
We got the highest award for North Carolina. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, lady. That brings us down to the items for consent. Board, you've had a chance to see that. You have them in front of them. Any discussion or a motion that we accept?
I so move.
Dr. Hobbs has made a motion that we accept the items for consent. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us down for items for discussion and decision. Rich, you got the first three on this agenda. Let's go.
I appreciate it. So the first one we got is, this is a Clean Water State Revolving Fund offer that was made previously to the town. And this deals with the, they were the Power Resource Group. You've got a facility out on William Marlboro Road. And, and looking at what they currently do in terms of taking the, dried chicken manure and turning it into, alternative fuel, they wanted to look at the opportunity to take reuse water and kind of use that to develop as a hydrogen alternative fuel. And in the past, Farmville put a tertiary filter at the wastewater treatment plant. This is way back when the Farmville Golf Course updated their irrigation system, and they had an operator who had a reuse land application permit, operator's permit. And so there was a filter and a force main that allowed reuse water to be discharged to one of the ponds on the golf course, where the golf course could take that reuse water and irrigate the golf course. Not long after that, the licensed operator passed and they didn't renew their permit. And so that tertiary filter it still remains, and it certainly would need some reworking, but has the ability to provide the reuse that Power Resource Group is looking for. So we did an application under the premise that, okay, maybe we can get 100% grant money because of the town's designation. The state came back and scored our project, made us an offer of about a little over $3 million, and they divided it between 50% loan and 50% grant, where the loan carried a 0% fee, but still it represented about $1.5 million of debt service that the town would have to incur to make this project go forward, recognizing that it was only going to benefit a single industry. And so what we did when the funding was announced was that we reached out to the Power Resource Group folks to try to develop an interlocal agreement that established a rate or a fee structure to where they would pay to receive the reuse water, and that payment would be sufficient to cover debt service and operating costs, because we did not want to go into something where we were going to invest in a project to serve a single industry and kind of strap that burden on your existing customers. So we moved forward under that premise, and have had several conversations. They had additional priorities, and it's kind of been delayed in terms of being able to finalize an interlocal agreement. And because of the timelines that are involved with this funding, and this funding is not American Rescue Plan, it is their regular state appropriation, we revisited the cost estimate, and because of the increases in costs that we've seen industry-wide, we really think it's going to take an additional $1.5 million to make the project work if we were to move forward under the current offer, and that would be in the form of supplemental loan. And in talking with the funding agency, what we had proposed to them was we really need a better financial package. This is a project that is prioritized under their program because of the cost increases. Are we not better off to develop an interlocal agreement with the Power Resource Group people up front and then resubmit the application, updating the cost, hopefully be in a position where we get a majority grant money and not have to face the debt service. And the state agreed that there would be no penalty, that there's nothing, they fully understood the premise behind that type of scenario. They didn't blame us for not wanting the debt service strapped to the town. And so what we've got is two options. One option is to accept the funding as presented and go ahead and move forward with the project. Represents $1.5 million of debt service plus probably another $1.5 million supplemental funding, additional debt service. I don't like that, and I don't recommend that. The second option is to officially request withdrawal of the current offer as presented and then go back to Power Resource Group to develop an interlocal agreement that's palatable, and then resubmit an application if they're willing to move forward under the provisions that we would establish, and a better financial package that doesn't impose debt service on the town. And that's what I'm recommending for y'all's consideration, is to formally request withdrawal of that application.
Okay. Board, what you've heard Rich several times, it's item number 2 in your one sheeter there. He's asking us to withdraw from the DWI offer. Any questions of Rich or motion or comments? Hearing.
It's just a shame we couldn't get it all as a grant instead of half and half.
And that's what we want.
Yeah, that's what we want. If nobody else has any questions, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Smith has made a motion that we accept and withdraw from this plan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Rich, you bring us down to item 18. You're asking us to save some money again. Carry on.
Back at the end of 2024, EPA came out with a requirement that every municipal water system had to, at a minimum, inventory your service line material. And that's the service from your main water lines to the right-of-way, and then inventory the service lines from the meter box water service to the house. And then you had other opportunities that if you wanted to, you could apply for money to help citizens to replace their service lines in their yards if they were lead or galvanized iron material. And this all comes back to Flint, Michigan, back in 2014, who switched their source water from Detroit to the Flint River, and when they did, the chemistry of the water, produced lead poisoning in the pipes. Lots of disease, lots of problems, and just put a focus on the need to know how much lead service lines we've got out there. And the state actively promoted these funds to be available to help towns not only inventory, but also do additional testing if they found lead piping or galvanized piping, to do distribution materials to make to increase public awareness and stuff like that. And really we're promising there's a lot of grant money. And so we applied for $633,850 to support inventory and inspection only, not replacement. We completed the inventory because y'all have excellent records of your existing water system assets. You've got your GIS assets. So, and plus we were replacing most of your water lines in town. So, we were able to we did the inventory. And so we met that requirement. Y'all are in full compliance with, what the minimum EPA requirements were. But we let the process go through for the application, and they came back and offered a 60% grant, 40% loan package that if the town were to accept only on the basis of inventory, you'd still have to assume a loan of $253,000. And again, we've completed the activity. And because it had a loan strap, and because we didn't find any lead, I just don't see any point of borrowing money to do a lot of additional digging and probing, when we know that the problems don't exist here in town. And so, we might, and again, honestly, would think twice if it was 100% grant, but it's not. It's 40% loan. So, same options we've got. We can accept what they got. Do some additional probing and looking. It's not going to produce anything different from what we've already found, and we're continuing inventory. The debt service represents about a 40-cent increase in utility rates. I don't recommend that. Don't recommend moving forward with it as presented. Our second option is to withdraw the offer. And again, towns met the EPA and the state's requirements for inventory of lead service and galvanized iron piping material. It has been submitted and received. You're in full compliance. So you've accomplished the task. So don't see any really reason why to borrow some money to do something we've already done. So what I'm recommending for is that y'all withdraw that application, and we'll just move forward with what we've done to this point.
Board, you've heard Rich's request for us to withdraw. It's item number 2 on your agenda item there. He's asking us to withdraw from the DWI offer. That's his advice. Comments or motion?
May I ask a couple questions, just out of curiosity? Are there other municipalities within our area that might have to take something like this and accept it that would have problems? And is
There were some that had, you know, and again, the lead lines have not been the problem. They do have some places that have had, you know, galvanized iron piping because they have not done anything in the past to replace their aged infrastructure. It's kind of been there. And so there are other towns that are around here that are having to do a lot of pothole digging and putting a lot more investment in the inventory, and because their infrastructure is so aged. And I'm not saying that y'all, you know, I mean, certainly I'll be the first to admit, you know, we've got some asbestos lying out there on Marlboro Highway that I'd love to get rid of. It's not an endangerment, but it's out there. But we have actively replaced all of our cast iron and galvanized iron water lines in town. So we've addressed, you know, and your next item, we're going to finish off one of them, but, you know, we've aggressively pursued and taken care of the problems where other towns haven't.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's just what I was curious about, is how much further ahead of the curve are we? Because,
way ahead.
So, because we have really over years done our homework.
Yes, and y'all have been aggressive about inventorying your assets, maintaining that inventory, and then when you have problems, y'all been aggressive about looking for funds to take care of the problems. And so y'all are one of the most complained about municipalities in the county. How dare y'all get all this grant money?
Anybody else?
I don't have any more questions.
Any more questions? Is there a motion?
I will make a motion then, in that case, that we withdraw our offer, or we withdraw ourselves from the offer for the, can't really read it that good, with the lead replacement.
Board, you've heard the motion from Commissioner Smith. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Rich, do your go.
Yeah, and this is the last one. This was our American Rescue Plan Act project that replaced the remaining galvanized iron and cast iron water lines in town. And this was an original $2,454,000 grant award to the town. We received bids and moved forward with it. When we awarded construction, because of budgetary concerns, we eliminated the replacement activities on Crestwood Drive and East Hines Street. And now that we have predominantly completed construction activities, we did a physical accounting of where we were, and based on the quantities, we feel that we have enough contingency funds in place to add those streets back into the project and get those replaced. So that will complete the replacement of all our aged materials. And so what I've got for your consideration is a change order that it adjusts the quantities based on the work completed to date. It adds a storm sewer repair at Walnut and Pine Street that we had a conflict with the water line, and it was a problem area. And we have incorporated that repair work into this project. And we're going to add the work back on Crestwood and East Hines Street back into the project. And what I've got for your consideration is a resolution to amend the capital project and approve change order number 1. And then what I've got also is a copy of that change order number 1. If you approve it, we'll get it fully executed and approved by the state and get it implemented so that we can complete the project and get it closed out.
Okay. Any questions?
So this would close out the last of the galvanized pipe in
Yes,
town
sir.
that we don't need to resurvey and?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Motion.
Make a motion that we approve the change order.
Commissioner Evans has made a motion that we approve the resolution amending the project budget ordinance and approving change order number 1. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Did a good job, sir.
Right. A little more than 90 seconds.
Thanks for keeping us out in front.
Right. I appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chief Spencer, to approve the request to award an SRO Jeffrey Smith with his sidearm for his service to the town of Farmville. That will not be done tonight. It's just a request asking us to do it.
Correct.
Chief, go ahead.
As y'all seen in your packets, Jeffrey Smith, which started his career in 2005 here with the town of Farmville, he served with us for 20 years. He started out on patrol, and in 2019, he finished out his career at the Farmville Middle School, where he had a lasting impact on all the students out there and all the staff members. So, coming before you today to request that y'all approve that we give him his sidearm that he carried for his 20 years here, and that is allowed by North Carolina General Statute 17F-20. And if anybody's got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions? Is there a motion that we make? Are you planning on doing this in August at our next meeting?
I'm going to talk with Officer Smith and see if he can fit it on his schedule to see if everything works out perfect, and that's what I plan on doing.
Okay,
sir.
okay.
I would just like the record to show that we would like to officially thank him for his service to the town.
I appreciate it, and I will absolutely let him know.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve this request to award Officer Smith his sidearm.
Mr. Flanagan has made the motion that we approve presenting the sidearm, hopefully in the near future. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings, thank you, Chief. We look forward to hearing from you soon on that presentation for the adoption of the Horn Avenue Streetscape Plan. You ready? All right. Now, just can we stop at any time? Would it be okay if the board says, whoa, I got a question? Will that work?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Will that make it a little easier on you?
Sure. No,
Okay, so board at any time during the presentation, feel free to ask a question. Room is yours, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Stephen Faber, work for a design engineering firm Stewart out of the Raleigh-Durham area. I'm here today just to quickly give an overview presentation of our work for the master plan streetscape of West Horn Avenue. We started this project through the planning department's support, basically to do an analysis, an overview, and a potential vision plan for improvements to West Horn Avenue. We started the project with a general vision statement, which says, we look to reshape West Horn Avenue into an inspired streetscape that improves the pedestrian realm, serving the needs of the properties it impacts and enhancing the visitor experience. And then below that, we've established a few goals for the town and the project. One goal is to improve pedestrian connections up and down West Horn Avenue, improve the park edge there on Horn Avenue, and even on the side streets as well. Number three, through the streetscape effort, improve the greening and beautification of that work. That's use of plant material, nice materials, just that kind of stuff. And then lastly, the potential for an improved gateway experience at Horn Avenue in May. I think, later we can talk about, how far those improvements go, but at least for this plan, we're looking at maybe a pedestrian connection for now. Going on into the overview and analysis, one of the things that we like to do is dive a little bit into the history of our projects to better understand the character of the place. So one of the things we did here was really go back and look at the historical context of Horn Avenue, but Farmville and the greater region. We learned about all the tobacco that's part of the history here, which was very interesting, and all the infrastructure that went into that, all the warehouse sites that we noticed, and then some of the artifacts that are still remaining on Horn Avenue, such as some railroad ties and things like that, which possibly could be reused in a streetscape project. Going on to the next page, talking about the project overview. This is basically just an end-to-end map showing May Boulevard all the way to Main Street, and then Horn Avenue. And so the red boundary on your packet, if you can see that, just suggests kind of what the study areas we looked at. But some of the conversations did talk about, the greater park and opportunities for that park. And then going to existing conditions, obviously you all know Horn Avenue better than me, but some of the things that we noticed that were in need of improvement in those conditions. There's fair amounts of the streetscape that do not have curb and gutter, have drainage issues. There's various kinds of driveway accesses, for people to use. So curb cuts are prevalent. And then we have, just kind of a mismatch of parking opportunities along the street that aren't well defined. So a little bit of a congestion at times there. And then you can see some of these existing conditions on 1.3. That first upper picture, I think it's on 0.5. It shows some of the old railroad ties that I think brought some of the train cars into the old warehouses. Very interesting artifact there. And then you can see some of the asphalt conditions, kind of unmarked paving for parking that people use. So those are all opportunities, but also challenges as well. Going to 1.4, looking across, how do we look at these as, improvements, opportunities for the streetscape? There are some great improvements that have already happened on the town hall site. There are some gaps in those improvements on the town hall site as in regards to the sidewalk connections. So, that's helpful to have those sidewalks there, but we have to finish those connections. Other pictures that we've shown, indicate the, 0.8 on 1.4 indicates the potential development site that I think was the old warehouses for some of the tobacco sales that happened. That's at May and Horn there. There's a nice, concrete stormwater ditch there that's a challenge if we were to try to improve it, but if a potential developer wants to come in, that could be an opportunity for them to fix those improvements themselves. And then other challenges we have, sometimes we found that the buildings are right up against the right-of-way, so it made it very hard to improve the property adjacent to those, improve the streetscape adjacent to those buildings. And then kind of going into a deeper dive on the following 1.4 page, this shows a map zoomed in of just what's happening on the streetscape. I think some of the main things that we're looking at and improving are the sidewalk connection on the north side of Horn Avenue. The south side of Horn Avenue has some of those challenges all the way along it, so we think that improving the north side is really the easier, less obstructed opportunity for the town. Going across the Armory site and then continuing on in front of the townhome residential properties before you hit the park. And then if you go to the next page, looking at the park property, what we're suggesting here is potential updated parking along Horn Avenue, probably parallel parking there. But then on Ryan Drive, we're looking at improving the parking that you guys have in a gravel lot there. We think that can be a double-loaded parking lot. We didn't do parking counts because we don't have a good sense of exactly how many park there since it's not really well-defined, but I think if we can define it better, it'd be probably more efficient parking. And then further down as we get past the soccer fields and we get into the baseball field site, we really see the opportunity to improve the corner at Ryan Drive and Horn Avenue. That creates like a gateway into the baseball fields. So what we started to identify there is opportunities for improved access, visibility into the site, pickup and drop off as well. And then further down on the baseball field site, you guys do have your existing maintenance facility, but there's the new facility that was built. We think improving the sidewalk connection and efficient parking along that edge would just help all people that visit as well as maintenance operations. And then going to the last 1.4 page on the next one, basically this takes you from the ball field site all the way down to Maine. And really we're looking at continuing the sidewalk along the maintenance facility there, but then crossing to the south side where the town hall site is, and then finishing that connection along the town hall site.
Catch your breath, Stephen. Anybody got any questions? Anybody got any questions?
Okay.
All right, now carry on, sir.
Yep. And then if you go over to the master plan, this is more of the illustrative improvements and how they might look. You can see that in the overall plan, we've got a little bit more character defined with street trees all the way along Horn Avenue. We've definitely improved the edge along the soccer fields, and then I really kind of basically formatted the parking lot on Ryan Drive to really be more efficient, so that would be paved parking. The other thing I'll mention is on the, I guess, north side, probably to the left, planned left as you're looking at it, on Field Street, North Field Street, we've looked at also increasing some parking there. So if there's a concern that parking is being eliminated by us making all these improvements, we've looked at opportunities where we can add parking. So Field Street, Ryan, and obviously along Horn is where all the parking would be improved. And then the next few pages kind of dive into a little bit more of the detail of the improvements and the kind of visual of the master plan. You can see up near the corner intersection with May, there is a crosswalk there. Eventually, you guys may want to consider a signalized intersection there just to help with safety. But I think Monk Park and the improvements at Monk Park might be a bigger opportunity to consider that. And then moving down past the fire station site, you have the armory. There's going to be some work around that might need to happen with the armory signage, but we definitely think the sidewalk can go on the north side, be a little bit easier and probably more cost effective to do so. And then we continue to pass along in front of the townhome properties. And then flipping over to 2.3, you can see the improvements that are happening in front of the soccer fields. We're definitely looking at creating a multi-use path, which is really a 10-foot wide path that allows different kinds of users to use it. So from pedestrians and joggers to bicyclists and stroller pushing. This would be a multi-use path that might actually ring around the park for exercise and so forth. It's not a sidewalk, it's more than a sidewalk. So that's really kind of a key element that's part of this streetscape. And then kind of the improvements that, like I mentioned, at Ryan and Horn, both the soccer field corner and the baseball field corner would have an improved kind of entry. And that entry might include more visibility, places for seating, places for picking up and dropping off kids or whatnot. And then moving to the last page, 2.4, again, just showing the improvements as they continue past the maintenance facilities. They cross to the south side of Horn and then finish their connection along the town hall site. Lastly, just moving into streetscape materials considerations. One of the things that we want to possibly consider and suggest is taking some of the material patterns, colors, and that you see in downtown Farmville and using them to continue the character of downtown as part of the streetscape. So everything kind of starts to feel like it has a common language of materials, both in downtown and with these improvements. So making some suggestions about patterns and brick color that are pulled off of the building, some of the stuff we see in the streetscapes related to similar use of pavers and brick and concrete, and then colors as well. And then also, these are some suggestions about maybe bicycle parking, some trash litters, receptacles, furnishings, and that kind of thing, as well as street lamps and lighting. And then the last couple of pages talked about plant material. I think it's important to try to use native plants because they're well adapted for the climate down here. They don't take as much water or maintenance to establish, and so we've got some recommendations here of plants that could be considered. Grasses are pretty helpful to get fill in planting beds, and they don't quite use up as much water as some of the shrubs and perennials that do. So that's the planting and landscape portion. And then the last page we have really just talks about next steps and recommendations. Basically, we're concluding our work here with the master plan. The next steps you guys might want to consider is, now that we're going to be going into a site plan after getting detailed survey information, considering your funding sources for the next phase of this, and when you want to move forward, obviously. Once that's kind of established and maybe even getting a cost estimate, we could then move into construction documentations, going through that site design process that takes it from 50,000 feet and moves it to like 10 feet, basically. And then after all the construction documents done, you would go into bidding and construction. So kind of lays out the next steps, and yeah, concludes our work. Thank you.
Before I ask the board to ask questions, Town Manager, is there anything you want to weigh in on this? Anything?
No, I think it's been pretty well covered by Stephen here this evening. Yeah, ultimately what we're looking to do, as Stephen mentioned, is we understand, we have a lot of visitors that come to town, and when they do, they generally access the downtown area from the interstate, and so they're generally going to use Horn Avenue. And we know that we have a lot of people that both live here in town and from outside of town that utilize the recreation complex there. So we have a lot of visitors that take this route coming in. I think we can all agree aesthetically that there needs to be some improvements along this stretch. So ultimately, that was our goal with this project, was to look at ways that we could both improve the functionality and the aesthetics of this stretch of Horn Avenue, and so that's what we've been working to do. And I think the recommendations that we have here this evening can get us going in the right direction to do so.
In our last meeting, we received a report on the master plan and long-range plan for recreation. This all meshes together?
This does, yeah. In fact, as we were going through the planning process, we had a meeting with Stephen, as well as the consultants from McGill who were working with the Recreation Department on theirs, and so we coordinated those. And this plan was presented both to the Planning Board as well as the Recreation Board to receive their comments. So this final version that was presented to the Planning Board and to you all tonight features comments that were provided to us both from Recreation staff and from the Recreation Board. So they reviewed it, and they're in support of the project as well.
Stephen, some years ago, I'd say 2020, there were the abundance of grants for recreation and things of this nature. They were abundant. Is that still active out there?
I think so. Obviously, it's getting a bit harder. There's more competition for dollars, in some of the bigger markets. So I think when you apply for these grants, you have to be really on your A game, so to speak. We've seen some of even recently for us, some of the county projects that we're working on not getting grants, part of grants and stuff. And I think just because there's more work going on in some of the bigger cities. So I think the money is still available, but it's tightening up a bit.
I wouldn't expect anything less. Board, Stephen is asking us to adopt the Horn Avenue Streetscape Plan. Discussion.
I just have one quick question. First, I want to commend you for such a comprehensive plan.
Oh, thank you.
This is very well done. And I noticed that next step requires 4 steps.
Not 4, but this is how we would kind of break it out. If
right.
You think about it.
And I'm just going to be visionary.
Sure.
When do you think the end of those 4 steps will be? What do you predict?
From a plan looking, I mean, what we've outlined is kind of the steps you go through to get it into construction. So I think if the funding's there for us to do the plans, it could look as good as what we're presenting.
So that goes back to what the mayor just said.
Yeah.
It depends on the dollars.
Yeah, dollars for the construction budget's obviously going to be
very well done.
What was it? And I may have missed it, and I'm sure I did. What is the time frame for completing this?
That's what I was asking.
Okay. Well, we haven't kind of identified, like a schedule for what it'd be, but if you had I would say, getting the funding, that's kind of on your side, doing the cost estimate, we can, we can assist with that to identify how much does this plan cost just at this level. That might take a couple months to figure out with you and with the estimator. And then if the funds are available to go through the design and construction document process, that's probably a 6 to 12 month, depending on the permits, the permits that would be needed. And then construction, I think if you do it all in one phase, you might be able to get it done 8 to 12 months.
So you're 26 or 27?
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning about 8:30, just Christopher's telephone's gonna ring. Okay, and I'm gonna ask him something that I thought about between now and midnight tonight. Is he up to speed on every bit of this?
Justin?
Justin and Christopher.
Yeah, Christopher is. I've talked with him, and he's been advised on this plan and given us input on the plan.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right. We'll see how that works at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Board. Any questions, comments, or motion, please?
Yeah, I just got a question, and we're talking about, Horn Avenue being a main entrance to town, but we're also talking about, having a lot of kids out there with the recreation and everything. Have y'all thought about any provisions to maybe slow traffic down as it gets into that area that's more congested? Both on Horn Avenue and maybe also on Rhine, because Rhine, I don't know whether, is Rhine going to continue to connect with that subdivision back there in the back?
Yeah, our understanding is it is. I think a couple things happen when you start to improve streetscapes like this. Obviously, you're defining edges with curb, gutter, sidewalk. You start planting trees and things there, and it starts to make it more walkable. I think with all the activity that happens, from these improvements, it causes people in vehicles to want to slow down because they're having to scan the roadway and make sure that they're not going too fast and stuff. Now, sometimes you're going to have people that aren't paying attention, right, that do want to go fast. I think at the intersections, there's going to be crosswalks. You could elevate those crosswalks to have flashing yellow, the chirp sound, you can do those things. Also, I would say that with how the streetscape intersections are designed, they're going to have bulb outs. These are kind of those little planter islands that kind of come out, and they're at the edge. And there's a parallel parking strip. So those bulb outs are gonna have like plantings and trees in them. That's gonna kind of start to make it feel like the streetscape's getting a little bit more narrow. So you're not gonna have this wide open view anymore as you're driving down. It's gonna start to feel more narrow with just the presence of plant material and trees and stuff. Additional items you can do would be to, you could do speed humps, you could do kind of traffic calming devices like that. You could elevate the intersection, so it's like going on a tabletop and then coming down. Those things actually slow down traffic, and they actually, they focus more of the intersections to be for pedestrians to cross, and they're ADA accessible because they're just flat all the way across. Those are improvements that we could look into, at a site design level. The other thing is changing up the paving on the crosswalk, so it's not just asphalt with white lines, but you could, actually do colored concrete. So all these visual cues start to tell drivers to pay attention, focus on the fact that kids might be crossing. So those are all kind of and there's probably a few more that we could look at, but I think all those are on the table depending on how much we want to do.
Yeah, it's just something I think that we probably need to look very seriously at, because, if we have all the kids out there that we're talking about having, and all the cars out there, that's just, and I've got a street that's got trees and stuff on it, and I don't know that they slow down when they come by those trees too.
Yeah. Well, and in those instances, that's where we look at doing maybe not just trees, but we do a couple different options,
I just think that's something that we really need to consider.
Yeah.
Because having any child jeopardized by a car accident or something would be really bad.
Yeah. Well, and one of the goals, pedestrian connectivity, is also make sure it's safe. And so I think that's probably one of our top goals, to make sure on these improvements.
Okay, any other questions of Stephen? Is there a motion to adopt? Excuse me, go ahead, sir.
Just so I'm clear in my mind, we're being asked to approve or adopt a master plan, a concept, a process. No, we're not committing to any dollars tonight.
Nope.
That's correct.
Make sure.
You didn't hear Commissioner Shackford scream. That's why no money was involved. No money was involved. They're just asking us to move forward with the process. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the master plan as presented by, help me out. Stephen, somebody. I think it's a good plan.
Thank you for that. I think we're a long ways from the completion of this, and so just to be clear on that, and I'm sure that Christopher, who will pursue the grants and things of that nature. So, Board, you've heard the motion by Commissioner Smith. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us down to item number 2, resolution adopting the Neuse River Regional Hazard Plan. Justin, that is you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, so attached is a resolution of adoption relating to the Neuse River Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Neuse River Plan involves Greene, Jones, Lenoir, Pitt, and Wayne County, as well as all of the incorporated municipalities throughout the region. The planning process was initiated early last year, and it will be completed following the adoption by the Board of Commissioners, followed by the formal certification of the plan for the next 5-year cycle. As you may recall, I believe this is the third time we've gone through the process since I've been here. What this plan does is we identify, we go in and every 2 years update this, and this plan identifies potential hazards in the region based from the Neuse River Basin. For us, we don't necessarily have a ton of hazards that we have to identify here, but what we do with this is we do identify our resources such as our substations, pump stations, things like that, so that it's included in this planning document so that in the event that we were to have a natural disaster of some kind, we would qualify then at that point for funding from both the state and federal level for emergency relief. So as a part of being a part of that plan, it does require that each municipality adopt a resolution endorsing the plan. The plan has been reviewed at the state level and approved, and it is going out now to all of the counties and municipalities therein. So that's what we have here tonight, the resolution for this board to support and endorse the hazard mitigation plan.
Okay. Any questions of town manager? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move to adopt the resolution.
Dr. Hobbs has made a motion that we adopt the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us down to a scheduled special call public hearing on July the 22nd at 12 noon, which will be sufficiently advertised. Justin?
Yes, and so yes, you covered it pretty well there, Mayor. We just need at this point for the board to announce and schedule this hearing. This is in regard to the town's application to the LGC regarding the financing for the town fire station project. This time, I'm just requesting that the board formally schedule the hearing for July 12th at 12 p.m. and we will advertise between now and then. July 22nd. My apologies.
Since money is involved, you become Mr. Oakes at that point. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Oakes? Any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to meet on the 22nd of July at 12 noon? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we schedule the meeting for July 22nd at 12 p.m.
Commissioner Flanagan has made the motion that we meet on Tuesday, July 22nd at 12 noon for a special call public hearing. Any discussion?
That'll be here.
Right here.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. That brings us down to citizens' comments. And again, it is about anything that you have heard here tonight. Anything you've heard here tonight. Anybody? Seeing none, does any commissioner have anything to offer for the good of the town or this board?
I hope everybody can get out to our celebration of July the 3rd. That is a fantastic evening in Farmville.
Absolutely. We will not meet again. Dr. Hobbs, real quick, the July 12th event.
You. I would like to invite all of you to come to the 25th anniversary of the Nathan R. Cobb Senior Foundation. And this year, we are presenting 6 scholarships. So you're all welcome to come at 1 o'clock, and it's going to be between the pavilion and the center this year.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. That being said, is there a motion that we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Smith made a motion we adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. I'll see y'all in July.